Okay. Good morning, all.
U redu, dobar dan svima.
I hope that you can hear me well.
Nadam se da me možete dobro čuti.
First of all, we would like to apologize for the slight delay
Kao prvo
in starting this
ispričavam se na
workshop.
tome što smo kasnili sa samim
The
početkom
plenary session ran a
radionice.
bit longer than expected, but it's
Plenarna
very nice to
sjednica
see you
trajala
all
duže nego
that
što
you're
je
here.
planirano, ali lijepo mi je vidjeti da ste nam se svi pridružili.
One second, I will start sharing my screen again. Okay. I hope the interpretation works well, and so the captioning. All right. So, welcome to the workshop entitled Job Coaching, Empowering People in the Open Labor Market, which is a practice that will be introduced by Dafür, which are a service provider in the federal state of Vorarlberg in Austria. The Dafür operates with an objective to secure fulfilling employment for people with disabilities, but as well for other disadvantaged people with a strong, with having a strong belief that work is an essential precondition to live a self-determined life. They offer support in finding sustained, meaningful, and productive employment through the focus on strength of persons, on building a strong network of partnerships, and considering both the employer's perspective as well as the job seeker's perspective. It is actually a great honor to have them in the workshop today, as it's not only just a best practice, but it is a best practice which just won an award. So we would like to congratulate officially and live Dafür for having been the winners of the Employment for All Award, the 4th edition of this award organized by EASPD in the category of services. We have been collecting, so EASPD together with, in cooperation with LADAPT, we have been collecting best practices from across Europe, best practices that support innovation and that highlight inspiring practices that empower persons with disabilities to join the open labor market. And an international panel of experts made up of employers, service providers, policymakers, persons with disabilities, as well as award winners from previous editions have reviewed 49 practices which were received from 20 countries, and have selected 6 inspiring stories, 3 in the category of service providers and 3 in the category of employers. And as mentioned, Dafür won in the service category. So congratulations once more, and we are really looking forward to hearing the details of your practice. Before giving the floor to them, I would like to give some housekeeping information regarding the technical aspects of this workshop. As you already might know, if you joined the plenary sessions before, you can activate subtitles. So you can see English subtitles by clicking the closed caption button on the control bar. We also have Croatian interpretation, and for some technical reasons, Zoom does not list Croatian as a language that can be interpreted in, so you would have to select Spanish for that. We ask all participants to please keep your video off and the microphone on mute. We might at one point unmute your mic for questions. But we encourage you to first post your question in the chat box. That you can do throughout the presentation. We will first hear the presentation by the Dafür representatives. And after that, we really would like to encourage you to ask questions. So it's your moment to get the details from the experts. So with no further ado, I would like to give the floor to Katharina and Reinhard. I hope I got your name right. Yeah, looking forward to hearing about your practice. I will close now my screen and you can open the presentation.
Hello to everybody. Now we introduce you. I'm Reinhard and this is Katharina.
Hello.
And we tell you what we do in Dafür job coaching.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can hear you well.
And you see the screen, right?
I'm sorry?
Can you see the presentation?
We can see the presentation. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It works well.
Okay, welcome and hello to everybody. We are happy to be here today and have to change the present, use a job coaching service here in Austria. Thank you to EASPD for the invitation. It is an honor to be nominated as the one best practice. My name is Reinhard and together with me, my colleague from the Dafür job coaching team, I will give you an insight into our practice. Now, a short presentation of ourselves. I will begin with Johanna Ortner. Johanna Ortner is in Dafür since 2014. She worked as various offices, occupations, as secretary, accountant, and a tourist agent, and voluntary work in the social field. Her philosophy of life is every person is unique and valuable. And here is Katharina. She's also online. She is in Dafür since 2018. Before she worked here, she is an occupational therapist. And her philosophy of life is develop yourself from your strength. And now we have Hofer Hartmut. He's in Dafür since 2014. He worked as a cultural manager and a theater director. And his philosophy of life, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And now is a short introduction of myself. I'm Reinhard Zahler. I'm job coach in Dafür since 2014. Before I become a job coach, I'm working as a metal worker and a project manager in many companies. And I have a lot of experiences in different industries. And my philosophy of life is those who do not act are treated. Now I give you an overview of our presentation. We have 3 chapters. And the first is introducing our practice. There is who we are and the mission statement and the objectives and the target audience with the activities and the job coaching process from onboarding to inclusion. And the second chapter, sustainability, efforts in promoting inclusive employment and challenges we face, the strength of our practice, and the third is outcomes and results. Here we have facts and figures and the journey of LENA.
Stavit ćemo neke statističke podatke, a i priču.
Now comes Katharina.
I will start by explaining you who we are. Dafür is a very regular
Training and labor market.
Sorry,
inclusion-
Katharina. Sorry
Yeah?
for interrupting you. We don't really hear it that well. If you can come a bit closer to the laptop.
Dafür is a regional competence. It's better?
It's better, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dafür is a regional competence center for vocational training and labor market inclusion of people with disabilities. We are over 60 employees and we are operating since 2003 in Vorarlberg in Austria. Let's take a closer look at the 4 different services we offer for persons with disabilities from the end of compulsory school till retirement. First, there's youth coaching. It supports at the schoolwork interface and clarifies educational and labor market perspective. Then there's work assistance. It supports job seekers in searching for a job or an apprenticeship and helps securing jobs and overcoming periods of crisis. Then we have vocational training assistants. They support young people with disabilities within the
Podržoval rad na mě.
extended apprenticeship or partial qualification. The 4th service is job coaching. It's the practice that we are presenting today. I will now present you our mission statement. We are operating across the federal state of Vorarlberg, Austria, with the objective to secure living employment for disabled and disadvantaged people, because we believe that work is an essential precondition to live a self-determined life. We support in finding and sustaining paid, meaningful and productive employment through the focus on a strong network and considering both the employers and the job seekers' perspective. Let's move on to the objectives of the job coaching practice. Job coaching assists people with disabilities to sustain employment in the open labor market in the longer term. Job trainings and work experience placements help the job coaches to identify strengths and job-related support measures before entering in employment. Our target audience is predefined by the Austrian Disabled Person Employment Act, DEA. According to Austrian disability law, one has to acquire a legal status of disability in order to be eligible for services and financial benefits. Consequently, we can offer our service to people who have a legal status of disability and to young people who are socioeconomically disadvantaged and are facing the risk of social exclusion. Let's turn to the activities in job coaching. Providing individualized and intensive support for people with disabilities directly at their workplace. Creating links to the person with a disability at the workplace, their colleagues and their supervisor, thereby including all relevant stakeholders. Promoting awareness and guidance to the working environment about disability-related issues. most important activities for training and development of job-specific skills. On the job training, reorganize work processes, conflict management, and mobility training. From the intake to assessment, planning and tailor-made interventions, the monitoring, ongoing support, and evaluation, the job coaching process follows the principles of support employment. I will start the explanation of the process by talking about who is asking for our service. A service user who knows what kind of job he or she wants to do, but with the support of a job coach, wants to find out if he or she is able to do this work. A person who is starting to work again after a long sick leave. A person, a supervisor, who is having a difficult situation in his or her company, for example, problems with communication or misunderstandings. Also, a service user who doesn't know how to master the way to work with public transport. And also a person who is afraid of losing his or her job because he or she cannot do the task anymore. Let's take a closer look at the different steps in the process. It all starts with initial contact. In the beginning, we are clarifying the issues and defining and challenges and defining all relevant stakeholders. The focus in this step is to develop a joint definition of a goal. We are then making a more in-depth analysis. This includes a workplace analysis, development of coaching, support, and tailor-made interventions.
Testom osmišlja coaching potpora I ciljane intervencije. Zatim kreće
Starting with the implementation. As the last step, the evaluation is very important. Now Reinhard will move on with our efforts in promoting inclusive employment.
So the challenges we face. Difficulty of finding suitable jobs for disabled or disadvantaged people since requirements on the labor market have become more demanding. Significant increase in administrative tasks in order to comply with the requirements of the funding authority. This also means less of working time in direct contact with the service user. Also, we have to manage a good calendar. When we support people in every kind of industry, for example, when we support a baker during his work time in the night, we cannot support a young person the next morning on the way to his or her work in the morning. Communication is also very important. It could be a challenge with people with sensory impairments or people with another native language. Developing creative communication solutions for these target groups is crucial. People with mental health problems, for example, they become aggressive or depressive in a workplace, and in the worst case, they have no family or friends to talk in that situation. Cognitive impairments, service users don't have the chance to understand the situation. An awareness raising for invisible disabilities becomes more important, and it's crucial to build up a good community of additional help. Job coaches can't carry this alone. Young people in vocational training probably not always reachable. This makes it difficult to keep in contact with them. In addition, their parents are not always able to work together with us to reach the goals. And helping people to help themselves. After we found out the reason of a problem, it's not always easy to detect what helps the person to help her or himself. And to build up a good relationship with our clients and to create a high level of confidence with the company, the supervisor and the staff. A fundament of our work is discretion of privacy. Company secrets all stay in the company and we don't put them out. Personal quality as a job coach. We must be open-minded and without prejudice to company rituals. We're having an appreciate and patient approach. And we are looking at someone long enough until we are able to evaluate the situations to step in. Our outside perspective supports companies, their employees in redesigning work process when having become routine blinded. Build up a good relationship with our clients and to create a high level of confidence with the company, the supervisor and the staff. A fundament of our work is direction of privacy. Company secrets all stay in the company and we don't put them out. Through the duration of support and our knowledge of internal process, we are able to provide support with the creation of new job opportunities. When the person with disability is no longer able to perform the present job.
Odrađivati posao na istom radnom mjestu.
And good communication inside of our job coaching team. Our job coaching
prednosti job
team,
coach.
we support
Uvijek
each
je
other with
važno.
giving ideas. We are also supported by a supervisor. That is necessary to stay capable of acting. And we are a diverse job coaching team. We have different ages, different genders, origins and professional experiences, working in different ways. And we are able to work very flexible in time and design. And we are working in an interdisciplinary team. People with disabilities often have multi-layered problems. And they're finding a common solution with all relevant stakeholders through intensive cooperation also fosters sustainable inclusion. Symbols of sustainability are visible in the company. Supervisors are watching the way we are working with the service users and take this over. The perception changes. When creating a new working place or a piece of it, it is mostly a solution for future. The supervisor and the staff are also learning from this process. Supervisors lose the fear of employing disabled people and the successful integration passes to a few other companies. And now Katharina will give you some facts and figures.
I will start this part with the outcomes of the job coaching program. In 2019, we are able to successfully support 63% of our service users that were 76% in 2018 in gaining or maintaining employment in the job coaching program. Together with the person with disability and other relevant stakeholders, the job coaches were able to restructure work processes and to adapt the workplace to the job seekers' abilities and strengths. 26% of our service users, that were 12% in 2018, were supported in a work placement training but didn't start a job immediately after this training. In 2019, 11% that were 12% in 2018, had to cancel the job coaching program for health or other reasons. It is also important to say that remuneration is based on collective agreements. All our service users have to be treated equally to other employees and receive the same remuneration. Let's now have a closer look at the different apprenticeship sectors when young service users have been employed in 2018. 13% are employed in technical apprenticeships, 12% are employed in joinery, 11% are employed as painter, 26% are employed in retail trade services, 27% are employed in other craft professions, and 11% are employed in tourism and catering services. With this slide, we want to give you an idea of a typical service user in the coaching program. It means that the following characteristics reflect the majority of our service users. For example, we support people with all kinds of disabilities, but most of them have an intellectual impairment. Most of them are between 25 and 45 years old. Most of them are female, and the duration of support is 138 days. They speak German and they are from Austria. They have a successful completion of the 9th grade. Other support organizations were asking for job coaching, and the completion is secured existing employment. To give you a better insight into our activities as job coaches, I want to take you on my journey with LENA, one of the service users I supported during the last year. LENA had medical problems when she was a baby, resulting in a cognitive impairment. An easy language helps her to communicate and to come in action. LENA has 2 different jobs in the same company. One part is cleaning classrooms and toilets in a school, and the other part is cleaning the dishes after children's lunch. She is working there already for over 10 years. During the last few years, problems increased, so her supervisor got in contact with Dafür. The problems were so diffuse that it was clear that this is a case for job coaching. First, I had to find out the main problem. The biggest problem was that LENA started to lie to the supervisor, to colleagues, and even at home. Watching her in her daily routine, she did her job very well, but in contact with colleagues, I noticed that misunderstandings appear very easily. LENA seems not to understand exactly what she has to do. So she did just anything and then said, "But you told me to do that." In addition, LENA had about 8 colleagues and everybody wanted her to do something. That she did, of course. Then LENA couldn't say no. So she did everything she was asked for. That, of course, asks too much of her as a cognitive impaired person. I supported her to find strategies how to handle this. Another problem was that the floor she cleaned before was sometimes sticky after it. I found out that she didn't know which cleaning product she has to use for what surface. So together we created a plan for cleaning. Finally, Lena couldn't do the job of cleaning classrooms and toilets anymore because her supervisor wasn't able to support her anymore. The challenge of job coaching now was to find some other tasks in the company that Lena was able to do. We found another set of tasks in the library next to the school, where she was already working. She loves her new job. She's cleaning books and games that people borrowed. She sorts books and games again in the shelf, and she likes her new supervisor in this part of her job very much, as well as her new colleagues. To summarize, the key success factors in this case include the following. First of all, an easy language is important. Using an easy language helps her to understand, also training her working environment in regard to this. Empowerment of the service user is another crucial factor. Fostering an increase in self-esteem and independence through training her and also telling the others no. It has positive effects of her new job, can also be seen in private life. She's feeling less stressed. Lena acquired new skills and adapted to a new working environment. Awareness raising for invisible disabilities becomes ever more important. A changing nature of work characterized by increasing speed and complexity demands the creation of new jobs that respond to the needs of people with limited cognitive abilities. I already pointed out the key factors in the journey of Lena. We want to end this presentation by adding 3 other factors that, in our opinion, are very important for sustainable inclusion. First, a good job match is the basis. This can be reached by bringing together the job seekers' wishes and abilities and the company's requirements. Transparency from the beginning to avoid disappointments on both sides. And finally, ongoing support from our job coach and a mentor inside the company. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Katharina and Reinhard, for taking us on a short but very interesting route to your success. So it was very interesting to learn a bit about your practice. Of course, there are many elements to it that we cannot really go over them now in a 30 minutes presentation. I would like to invite the participants to feel free to ask questions to you. And before we get any questions from the floor, maybe I can ask you a few things. I'm not sure if you mentioned, but how is your service funded? How does it work? Are you subsidized? Do you receive any support from authorities? Does it work on a quota system?
I'm just gonna support them now. Hi to everybody.
Sorry, can you come a bit closer, Katharina?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are a subsidized business.
You're subsidized.
Yeah, we're subsidized by the Austrian Ministry of Social Affairs. And all
Can you come a bit?
services.
Sorry, it's still the connection is not that great. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, sorry. Better now?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, we're a subsidized business, and we're subsidized out of funds from the Austrian Ministry of Social Affairs. So in Austria, according to Austrian disability law, every company has to hire one person with the legal status of disability when they have more than 25 employees, and they kind of pay this penalty tax if they don't. So these taxes are summarized in a funding pot, and therefore all these services are financed for people with disabilities. And this is also the case for job coaching.
Thank you very much. In the meantime, we also received a question from a participant asking if you have any extra training on job design, and if the employers were open to help you think about job design.
You mean like if we have the training for our job coaches, or in which way?
I would assume that this is how I would also interpret the question. If there is, yes, training for job coaches. The participant just confirmed. So if you have extra training, so I would also actually that was also a question that I wanted to ask about the profile of the job coaches, so their competences, and if they are indeed trained in job design, if that's their role also.
Mm-hmm. I just confirmed with the other two. Just 1 second. Yeah. So as we mentioned in the presentation, they have all very different backgrounds. They're coming from various industries, but of course they are trained then specific for how to support people with the disability at the workplace. And of course, what really adds to their experience is the experience they make during their work as a job coach. So they go to different industries and they kind of used how work processes, which task you can take out of these processes. So it might be really easy tasks, and through their work they really get the experience on how to look at these processes, which tasks can be taken out for people with, for example, an intellectual disability.
Okay, yeah.
Does this answer the question? Or?
Yes, for me it does. I hope for the participant as well. Also another question, as a job coach, is it your duty to train or supervise the employer before or after hiring a person with disability? And how do you monitor this?
So this was if we're training the supervisor of the person with a disability before.
Exactly, the employer. So if you're also having indeed, yeah, it is indeed about establishing a partnership with all actors that are involved. So one of the key actors is also the employers. And, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as Katharina also, the other Katharina also mentioned in the presentation, it's really important, the awareness raising, and there it's important to raise awareness about the different kinds of disabilities. So of course that's a huge part in the whole process, that we train the employer or supervisor, but train also the colleagues of the person with the disability. What does it mean? In the example of LENA, for instance, what she's always saying yes. So her colleagues have to be trained in, really ask her, can you do that now? You know, also training the communication skills of the colleagues and the supervisor. So that's a really important part, yeah.
And yeah, indeed, related to that, we have a question regarding which kind of sensibilization or awareness raising do you organize with among work colleagues, that the work colleagues that will work with that person with a disability? Is it, do you organize a meeting? Is it looking at a video or a good practice, or how do you establish that type of relationship?
I just summarize it with my colleagues. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, it's very individual in the case, in every specific case. But mostly it's more like really a meeting with the team, but also with the person with the disability, and then discussing these issues. What are the strengths? Where should you put a focus on? What are maybe, yeah, as described also already, what are typical communication patterns where you really have to have a look on, so that the person isn't overwhelmed by all the tasks.
Yeah.
But it's not that we have a video or something that's ready for every case. It's really because we support a lot of different kinds of people with disabilities, so it changes in every case, in every company.
Yeah. And I would assume that this type of meetings would have to happen also at the start, when the person starts working, also evaluating. So I think it's, yeah, it's a journey also for the team to learn and to adapt, and also for the person as well. Also, another question we have, which are the main challenges of the job coach in the process?
The challenges, we described them already in the presentation. I think, well, I think one of them, maybe Reinhard will support me. One of them, of course, is that the work in general is becoming more complex, and it's higher in speed. It's so we really have to have a look for jobs that offer maybe more tasks that are more easily to explain. So I think that's a challenge for everybody of us, that work is becoming more and more complex, and you have to learn how to handle with the overwhelming information. So especially in the case of people with a cognitive impairment, we really have to look at tasks that are easy to handle, easy to learn, easy to train. So I think that's a challenge. Well, another one would be that, of course, we also have to document a lot for our funding authority. So I think every employee of a service provider notices that administrative tasks are becoming more and more. So that means less time for the service user in the end. So that's also a challenge. Well, Reinhard also managed that it's really important to manage a good calendar. Our 4 job coaches, they are supporting people with disabilities in every kind of industry. So that means, for example, if they work, if they support a baker during nighttime, then they really have to see how to support maybe a student or an apprentice in the morning. So.
All right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Many challenges indeed. And thank you for sharing that with us. We have another question. Do people with disabilities pay for your service? And also, are you aware of other NGOs or businesses doing similar work as yours in Vienna? So there are two different questions here. So first, do people with disabilities have to pay to be supported by your services?
No, it's all free. Yeah, as I said, it's 100% subsidized from the Austrian government, more or less, and so they don't have to pay, and it's yeah, it's for free, also for the employers.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's indeed a good motivator.
Yeah.
And indeed, if you have any, if you are aware of other services alike as yours in Vienna,
yeah.
Oh, that's great. And you can share that with, I will get in contact with you to maybe share that details with us, and we can share them to the participants.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have to mention here that the service of job coaching exists everywhere in Austria. It's just different organizations who provide this service. So now I want to refer maybe to our umbrella organization. It's Dabei Austria. It's DABEI, and there you can find all the organizations that offer job coaching. So we have a lot of partners in other federal states of Austria.
That was a question from Emanuela, and I will share this with you because indeed Dabei is a member of EASPD, so yeah, we're in contact with them. And I think we have time for one more question from the audience before we can wrap up with some key messages. In which way do you come in contact with the employers that are interested in employing job seekers, especially people with disabilities? Do they come in contact with you, or you try to find out who is interested, taking into consideration the qualities and skills of the person? So how does the process work?
Yeah, just 1 second, I'll just check. Okay, so it's more or less both sides you already mentioned. The first one is that companies may have had a good experience with job coaching or with another service, so they contact us again if they have any problems. And the other way is that at Dafür we have a colleague, Petra, and she's solely in charge of getting in touch with employers and really ask them, do you have any vacancies for a person with a disability? Do you see any chances of new jobs? And so we have these both sides, and that's where we can find the employers.
All right, so you have established a connection with certain companies and certain businesses. So yeah,
we have a really good network here in Vorarlberg. We have a lot of small and medium enterprises, but also a few global players. And yeah, so we have a good regional network, and that, of course, is very important to find employment.
Indeed. And having worked with you before, they're already aware of the process. So it's it's really establishing this type of partnerships and then maintaining them, and that's easier as you go along. We've had a rapporteur for the session, that is my colleague Ilaria, who has been picking up the main messages from the workshop, which we'll put forward in our conference report. And I would like to give the floor to her and ask you, the speakers, after that, if you agree that these are the main messages that we can pick up from your workshop. It's a bit of a challenging task to wrap up everything in a three key messages, but I will give the floor to Ilaria.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Adriana. Now I will give a very short summary of Dafür's presentation. So they offer job coaching services to job seekers with disabilities. Their approach is personalized, which means that they train and enhance the skills of every single user. And they also act as a reference between the employer and the user. The job coaching process obviously goes from the initial contact to the implementation and finally the evaluation of the process in the long term. The challenges that were underlined were mostly the difficulties to find suitable jobs because job positions are becoming more and more demanding. Also problems related to communication, for example, for users that have hearing impairments. And also some people might tend to get depressive as the process goes. The strengths of Dafür are the ability to create a good level of confidence with the employers and a good communication with them, using as much time as it needed, and also support the creation of new opportunities when the user is no longer able to perform certain tests. For example, they brought us the story of LENA, who is a woman with a cognitive impairment. She used to work 2 jobs in a school, but after some 10 years, she started having problems, mostly related to communication with her colleagues and their supervisors. And she wasn't able to say that the work was too much for her and that she couldn't handle it. So Dafür got into action, and they managed to train her on how to say no when something was too much. And also in the end, it was necessary to find new tasks that she could perform in the same company, which they did. So this is the main strength and their approach that they stressed.
Thank you very much, Ilaria. If there's anything else that the speakers would like to add as key messages that we can take forward.
I think Ilaria summarized it really well. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, then I would like to thank you very much for sharing the practice with us. It was indeed very, very interesting. So thank you for that. We would like to congratulate you again for the Employment for All award. It's a pity indeed that we were not together in Paris to celebrate with a beautiful award ceremony as you would have deserved. I would like to inform all the participants that you can find information about all the winners of the Employment for All award on the EASPD website. So we invite you to go there, and we have launched a booklet where you can find more details about all the practices that have been selected. So the 6 practices, 3 in as service providers and 3 as businesses. And as next in program for today, we have the project development workshop for those that registered. So it is a closed workshop for those that have registered in advance. So those that have registered have the links to go and access the meetings. So that starts at 2. And yeah, I wish you all a very nice day and enjoy the rest of the conference. We will share with you the presentation. If Dafür agrees, we will share the presentation with the participants on our website. So you can also get in touch with them in case you have more questions, as indeed the format of this online meeting is not ideal. We would have liked more interaction. This is what we wish to have normally in workshops, but yeah, it is what it is. And yeah, we really hope that you're all in good health, and wish you all the best for yeah, making it through this pandemic. Okay, so thank you very much, and thank you also for the captioner and for the interpreters who have given us also interpretation in Croatian today. Okay, so have a nice day all.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.